Renaissance Man Education here. In part one of this video, or rather in part one of this subject matter, we discussed being yourself and staying in the right lane, not trying to be someone who you're not. So the inverse would be being who you are. Now, this current generation has an emphasis, a heavy emphasis on expression of oneself, one's belief, one's ideas in many different ways which are previously considered different to people in my generation and older. I do seek to understand the youth, but I also seek to inform and guide based on what I know. So with that being said, expressing yourself and being yourself can be taken to an extreme. And you have to be mindful of many layers of societal norms and boundaries. Norms means what's generally or widely accepted, which in American society, for us foundational Black Americans, some of those norms actually clash with us. And there are times, moments where we may decide, okay, well, you know what? I don't want this to apply to me. So let's look at societal norms in America first. First and foremost, as far as general public society is concerned, you're free to do what you want. Now, the flip side of that is people are free to pass judgment on you. You have to learn to determine when and where you want to express yourself and be quote unquote who you are within reasonable limitations. You don't want to cost yourself any price that you're not willing to pay, and you don't want to put yourself in a position that you don't need to be in. So for example, let's take hairstyles. This current generation, they like Philly fades, they like what we used to call bobs or mini fros with tapered sides and backs, dreadlocks. The reality of the situation is our hair grows up and our hair grows out. At one point in the business world, especially with the history in America being what it was, and systematic ways and methods and techniques of keeping foundational Black Americans out of particular opportunities, hair, dress, and grooming at times has been used for that purpose, to work against us and to take someone who may be qualified for a position and to say, hey, you're not qualified, or to just pass general judgment and say dreadlocks look unclean or afros don't look nice or beautiful, or whatever the case may be. As a matter of fact, the way I was taught growing up is, hey, son, coming from my father, your hair needs to look like a man's hair. And I agree with my father. For me, what you do, how you choose to carry yourself, that's your business. But for me, I chose to keep short haircuts. It's the way I was taught. So I either had some type of a low-cut fade, or at the most waves. Maybe a couple of times I let the waves grow a little bit longer and comb them out to where it might look like an S-curl or something like that. Very seldom though. large afros. People used to wear braids and twists that may have been considered unprofessional in some fronts. And for the record, certain industries don't care as much or don't scrutinize hairstyles as much. So for example, information technology or in the field of education, those are less stringent upon that part of appearance. Tattoos used to be considered unacceptable for certain professions. Now, in the military, there are limitations on what you can do with tattoos and whether or not you can get in. I think they've had to make those lax because society is changing. You have more people with tattoos now. When we got tattoos when I was young, we got them in places we could easily hide them. Now people choose to express themselves with tattoos on their necks and on their wrists, but keep in mind, if you're going to work in corporate America, that may not be acceptable. If you're going to be a tattoo artist, it's very acceptable. Firefighters and police, being that tattoos are kind of a tough guy image, they've become a little bit more lax in that area. What about piercings? Some people like to get, oh, by the way, with the tattoos, now if you're going to get a tattoo on your face, hey, I do believe that may still be considered extreme in most circles. So with that being said, there are other ways that people do these things. Colored hair, I see that more and more. The young ladies are getting pink and purple and green hair. I would maybe say, depending on the industry and what you want to do, because again, my target market is teenagers, young adults, college students, that type of demographic. However, it's wise to understand what the possible consequences of your actions may be. The Bible says all things need to be done in moderation. So when you're looking at piercings, tattoos, hairstyles, it just depends on what you want and how far you're willing to go. Now, a big X factor with all of this, if you're an entrepreneur, two ways you can look at it. If you're an entrepreneur, having an image is still going to be important. One of my students told me last week, well, Mr. Renaissance Man, I don't want to have to conform to anyone's image, but the student wants to be a real estate salesperson. Well, you have to take into consideration whether or not people will choose to do business with you should you decide that you're going to have whatever type of appearance. Generally, in that line of business, keeping it in the American sense of the word, professional is probably your best bet. You want the best clients that you can get. You want an image that you can take into different fronts. You don't want to paint yourself into a corner in the name of maintaining an image or avoiding not being able to express yourself and enclosing yourself in a box, but in the process you've made it to where people who would have normally done business with you did not. But then again, you have some people who just won't do business with you. And people do business with who they like, trust, and know. Above entrepreneurship, if you become financially independent, and for the record, you will hear me say this more than once, it is in modern day foundational Black Americans' interest to have more than one income stream. your talent is, if you have a job, you can easily take that job and turn it into some type of service business and find some other form of investing or some other form of income, and eventually you want to work until you can make some of your income passive. Speaking of passive income and other income sources, I'm doing some work that involves me driving. So if you hear interference in the background, I do apologize for it. Financial independence, where you basically, your money, you can't be canceled, you can't be, whether or not people buy a certain number of products from you or not, or your product sells itself, or whatever the case may be. When your money's guaranteed, well, in that case, I do suppose you can dress, talk, think, act how you want. I did mention talking, speaking, and acting. Your actions, albeit it is a way of expressing yourself, your actions can also help you or hurt you or maybe be neutral. So just keep in mind how you carry yourself on the internet, how you carry yourself in public, what you say. You have people who may decide to use it against you. Again, all things in moderation. I think a good rule of thumb is, if it's something that you would be ashamed to say again, maybe you shouldn't say it in public. Maybe you should keep that for the confines of your home. If it can hurt people's feelings, yeah, it depends, because right is right, is wrong is, and wrong is wrong. The way you say things, I believe, matters as well. But again, you're going to have some people, they'll find something wrong with anything you say. And then there's some people who will love what you say regardless. I think at this point, it could be wrapped up, or we can wrap this video up by concluding that you just need to take into consideration what type of image you're projecting. Make sure it's the image you want to project. And don't just think about now. Attempt to think about today, tomorrow, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now. How will this look? Who could this affect? Is it positive? Is it negative? Sure, I may want to get this tattoo. How will it look when I'm 70 years old? Sure, I may want to color my hair. Does it prevent me from some type of opportunity in which what's to be gained from the opportunity outweighs the feeling I get from expressing myself? Be careful with your feelings. You can feel one way 1 minute and feel another way the next minute. Logic, clear, linear thought outweighs feelings. Nothing wrong with expressing yourself. Just understand consequences and repercussions versus benefits and positive attributes and positive results that will come. Make a smart, informed decision. Always speak to people who are wise. Get perspectives on different situations. Take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. Renaissance Man Education. Like, follow, share, subscribe, and you know what? You can even hit the dislike button too. I'm okay with that. Make comments. I'll see you in the next video.